Have you ever wondered why you were always the one set apart, misunderstood, labeled as a weirdo? They never saw the depth beneath your surface, did they? That isolation wasn't a weakness, it was the crucible that forged your unbreakable will. While they stayed safe in their ignorance, you uncovered the truths hidden in plain sight. Now, that very status of being the outsider is your greatest strength, the key to everything they will never grasp. You were born into a place where minds were small, confined by invisible walls built over generations. They laughed at your questions, scoffed at your defiance, because they saw only what they had been taught to see, a version of you distorted by their own insecurities. Their mockery was a defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to bury what they feared, the truth that you were different. Not different in the way they used the word like an insult, but different in the way stars burn alone in the sky, unafraid to shine in the vastness. They couldn't comprehend your hunger for more, for answers, for the unseen forces pulsing beneath the world they accepted without question. Their rejection of you was inevitable. It was written long before you understood why their voices grated against your spirit, why their customs felt like chains. They were stuck, frozen in time like shadows cast against stone, unable to grasp the depth of what moved within you. Every ridicule, every slight, every whispered insult, they were the proof of your chosenness. The scripture speaks truth. A prophet is never accepted in their own country. You are the prophet in this story, not because of your wisdom, but because you dared to see beyond their horizon, dared to reach for something they were too afraid to even acknowledge. They mistook your silence for weakness, your isolation for failure. But what they could never see is that the flame inside you grows brighter in the darkness. Their rejection wasn't your downfall. It was the necessary fire that tempered you, refining your spirit into something unbreakable. You were not made for their world, and they know it, even if they can't admit it. The town you once called home was never meant to be your resting place, only the crucible that shaped your destiny. You grew beyond the ridicule because your purpose was never to remain among those who chose blindness over truth. They thought themselves superior, casting their shallow judgments like stones, unaware they were hurling them into the sky, where they'd fall back down on their own heads. While they stagnated, sinking into the depths of their own ignorance, you soared, fueled by a force greater than their understanding. The divine hand guided you, shaping you into the light they could never see, because they were too busy worshiping the shadows of their own making. Every insult was a step on the ladder of your ascension. Each laugh at your expense only added to the fire that burned within you. They stayed rooted in their comforts, in the familiar mud of mediocrity, while you were forged in divine purpose. You were the chosen one, not because you were spared suffering, but because your suffering was the crucible that transformed you. Where others fell, bound by the chains of their smallness, you were lifted by the weight of their scorn. Your soul tempered into something that no earthly force could break. They mocked you, convinced their fleeting power was permanent. Now they face the harvest of their actions, each of them locked in the consequences they sowed with their arrogance. What they failed to realize is that while they spoke curses, God was speaking over you. His plan was never for you to fit into their world, but to rise above it, to become a beacon in the dark. The rejection, the mockery, it was all part of the plan. You were set apart because only those marked for greatness are forced to stand in the face of such opposition, and only those with the strength to bear it can emerge as the light this dark world so desperately needs. They acted like they were above you because they sensed, in the depths they refused to acknowledge, that you stood higher. Their words were shields, their cruelty a desperate attempt to hide their trembling fear. You, with your light that pierced through their well-constructed illusions, were a threat they could never articulate, a force they couldn't explain. They mocked you not because they didn't see your worth, but because they saw it too clearly, and it terrified them. Their laughter was hollow, their disdain laced with envy. They saw in you something they could never be, something too powerful, too raw for their small world to contain. Your presence was a mirror, reflecting the inadequacies they tried so hard to ignore. So they attacked, they ridiculed. They wanted you to doubt yourself because your certainty, your truth, was a threat to the fragile foundations of their lives. Every insult, every sneer, was an attempt to dim the light they could not control. But you are the chosen one, marked by something far greater than their small minds could comprehend. You didn't shine because you sought their approval. You were always destined to stand apart. The radiance within you is not a flickering flame, easily snuffed out by the winds of their judgment. It is a blinding force, too fierce for them to endure, and so they sought to shroud it with their darkness. Yet they failed. They never had the power to diminish you. They only revealed their own fear of what they could never become. You are the light they cannot extinguish, the truth they cannot bear. And that is why they turned against you. Not because you were lesser, but because you were too much for them to handle. You've surpassed the confines of the small minds that once sought to trap you. Their world was too narrow, their vision too limited to comprehend the magnitude of what you were becoming. They couldn't grasp it then, and now they only hear whispers of the name that has grown beyond their reach. Like the roots of a tree cracking through stone, you've shattered the limits they tried to impose. While they remain tethered to their stagnant beliefs, locked in the same conversations, the same thoughts, you have expanded, stretched, and reached heights they'll never know. Their small-town whispers have turned into echoes that can't keep pace with your rise. You no longer belong to the place that once tried to define you. Now, your name travels far, through cities and states, carried on the lips of those who understand what your hometown never could. Their ridicule has become irrelevant, a shadow behind you, as you step into spaces that recognize your brilliance. You aren't just acknowledged in one place, you are known in many. Your presence, once confined to a small town that sought to shrink you, now fills rooms far beyond the borders they tried to trap you within. Your growth is undeniable, unstoppable. Those who tried to keep you small now watch from a distance as your influence spreads like wildfire. They never understood the force within you because they couldn't fathom what it means to break free. But you did, and now there is no going back. The world recognizes what they missed, and your reach continues to expand, far beyond the limits of their imagination. You've outgrown their world, and it is they who now feel small in the shadow of your greatness. They messed with the wrong chosen one. They tried to diminish you, but all they did was fuel the fire of your transformation. You've stepped out of the shadows of their doubt and into the light of your own power. You are no longer alone. You've found your kind. The other weirdos, the outcasts, the ones who never fit the mold because they were meant to break it. Together, we are a force to be reckoned with, the inheritors of the new earth. And as they watch from their small, shrinking worlds, we rise above, united and unstoppable. That's why it's time for you to step fully into the power that's always been yours. You're not here to play small or be a forgotten name in a place that never deserved you. You've transcended those limits, and now it's time to surround yourself with those who truly understand what it means to be extraordinary. You belong in the Obsidian inner order, where the elite gather, not to fit in, but to stand out. This isn't just another group. This is your inner circle, your sanctuary of power and truth. We are the chosen ones who dared to embrace our weirdness, our differences, and turned them into strengths. In the Star Chamber tier, you'll not only connect with other visionaries like yourself, but also help shape the very content that guides the chosen ones forward. This is a 360-degree win. Your support keeps us fighting the dark forces, narcissists, and all who seek to diminish the light. And in return, you gain access to exclusive tools, uncensored videos, and insights that go far beyond the ordinary. The Star Chamber isn't just a place, it's a status, a recognition that you are among the few who refuse to be confined. We are the architects of the new earth, reclaiming what was always ours, one powerful step at a time. The link to our Patreon is in the description. There are only a few slots left in the Star Chamber, so act fast. This isn't just about watching the world recognize your greatness. It's about standing with those who see the world through the same powerful lens. You are not just chosen, you are inevitable. and together we rise. Let them watch as we claim what was always meant to be ours. While they basked in fleeting moments of popularity, you have transcended that shallow recognition to become something far greater, admired, respected, even revered. Their fame was like a flash of lightning, bright but gone in an instant, while your presence is a thunderstorm that lingers, reshaping the landscape. You were never meant for the temporary, for the superficial. While they sought validation in fleeting applause, you sought something deeper, something enduring. And that pursuit has carved your name into the hearts of those who matter. They may have had their moments, brief bursts of attention, but look at where they stand now, stuck, weighed down by the very choices that once made them feel invincible. Their paths were easy, paved with temporary pleasures and hollow victories. But you chose the road that was harder, steeper, yet destined for heights they could never imagine. And now, those choices have caught up to them. Some didn't finish school, others are bound by the weight of their past decisions, trapped in the consequences they once dismissed. Meanwhile, you have soared above, leaving behind the limits they accepted as fate. You are the chosen one, and that is why their momentary rise was never a threat to your inevitable ascent. While their world crumbled under the weight of poor decisions, you have become a towering figure, rooted in strength and purpose. Your success is not a fluke. It is the result of the battles you fought, the struggles they could never understand. You have risen not just above them, but far beyond what they ever thought possible. Now, it is you they look to, the one who endured, who overcame, and who now stands as a living testament to what true greatness means. Being cast aside, rejected, was never a curse. It was the greatest gift, though veiled in the discomfort of loneliness. It stripped away the noise, the distractions, and left you standing in a silence that allowed you to hear something deeper, the calling that was always there, waiting. While others were consumed with their fleeting connections, you were given the space to focus, to grow, to become exactly who you were meant to be. Their laughter was never the sound of victory. It was the static that faded away as you tuned into a higher frequency. The isolation they forced upon you only sharpened your vision, making the path ahead clearer than it ever was for them. They once jeered at what they didn't understand, ridiculed the difference they couldn't comprehend. But now, they are silent, their eyes wide with a mix of awe and disbelief as they watch the heights you've reached. They stood on the ground and mocked while you learned how to fly. You weren't meant to blend into their world because you were always meant for more. God's plan for you was never to fit in but to stand apart, to rise above. Every moment of exclusion was a moment where your roots grew deeper, your purpose became clearer, and your strength solidified. You are the chosen one. That's why you didn't belong with them, why their rejection was necessary. They couldn't see it then, but they see it now. Your success is not something that happened by chance. It is the inevitable result of the focus and resilience forged in the fires of rejection. They watch in amazement, because they now understand what they once saw as weakness was actually your strength. What they thought was failure was your preparation for greatness. You are everything they never expected, and now they stand in the shadow of your light. You have moved beyond the confines of a past that once sought to hold you captive. The chains they thought would bind you, old opinions, outdated beliefs, have long since crumbled to dust beneath your feet. Those who once clung to the comfort of the familiar, trapped in the cycles of their stagnant existence, are now mere spectators to your rise. They remain frozen, locked in their small worlds of recycled conversations, clinging to the way things were, while you have ascended to something far greater. Their opinions, once sharp and stinging, are now nothing more than whispers carried away by the wind. You are on a path that transcends their understanding, one they could never follow even if they tried. They remain stuck, spinning in the same circles while you've broken through, soaring far beyond the limitations they tried to impose. They talk of the past as if it still holds power, but you've long since outgrown it, like shedding a skin that no longer fits. Their words can't touch you now because you no longer walk the same road. You have seen what they never will, a higher path carved out by your relentless pursuit of something more. You didn't just leave them behind, you elevated yourself to a place they can't even reach with their shallow judgments. You are marked for something far greater than the petty opinions of those who chose comfort over growth. They can stay in their past, reliving the same mistakes, but you have become untouchable. Their limitations are not your own. You have stepped into a future designed for those brave enough to leave the past where it belongs. And now, as they remain stuck in their old ways, you walk ahead, unbound, unstoppable, beyond their reach. The eyes of those from your past may still linger on you, filled with envy and confusion, as they witness your ascent. Their gaze clings to you like a shadow, desperate to pull you back into the world you've outgrown. But their jealousy is irrelevant, their opinions drowned out by the sound of your success. You are too busy rising to notice their fixation, too focused on the life you're now creating to care about their silent grudges. You've stepped into a new reality, one where the constraints of their small minds no longer matter. While they stay rooted in the soil of their own stagnation, trapped by the same thoughts, same habits, you move forward, meeting new faces, shaking hands with opportunity, and breathing in the air of freedom they'll never taste. You are no longer bound by the past, no longer concerned with their small, envious hearts. Their jealousy is the weight that keeps them anchored while you soar above, untouchable and unreachable. The life you're building is far beyond their comprehension, a place they can't follow, no matter how intently they watch. You are the chosen one, not by accident, but because you had the courage to step out of the space they still inhabit. Their bitterness only serves as proof that you are rising above the limitations they accepted long ago. While they remain shackled to the familiar, you have carved a path of growth and expansion, one that widens with each new opportunity. They are stuck in a world that grows smaller as yours becomes boundless. And while they waste their energy on envy, you are thriving, untethered, unstoppable, and completely beyond their reach. You have risen, and their hatred is just the distant echo of a world you've left far behind. The greatest revenge is your undeniable success, the triumph that speaks louder than any words they ever hurled at you. While they once tried to diminish you, to cage you in their narrow perceptions, you broke through every barrier they put in your way. They thought they could contain your light, snuff out your potential with their envy and cruelty. But all they did was fuel the fire burning within you. Every attempt to drag you down only sharpened your resolve, making you stronger, more determined, and now you stand victorious, a force they can no longer deny. They are forced to witness your transformation, helpless as they watch you rise. The very same ones who once tried to laugh you into submission now sit in silence, their mouths dry with the bitter taste of their own failure. You have flourished in ways they could never have predicted, blossoming in the face of their scorn, growing into something they could never understand. The life you've built is the embodiment of every dream they thought they could crush. And now they must watch from below as you soar above the ruins of their petty attempts. You are the chosen one, destined for this victory. It was written in the stars long before they tried to block out your light. Their insults, their sabotage were nothing but echoes in the wind compared to the roar of your success. The transformation they now witness is more than just a change. It is a revolution of your being, a declaration that you were always meant to thrive, no matter how hard they tried to stop you. Your success is the ultimate revenge, not because you sought it, but because you became it. Now they stand in your shadow, forced to acknowledge the greatness they could never destroy. You've severed the ties that once bound you to the past, not out of bitterness, but because those ties were never meant to hold someone destined for greater heights. There is no need to return, to attend reunions or seek reconnection with those who still cling to the familiarity of yesterday. You've outgrown them, outpaced their understanding, and they are no longer part of the horizon you now face. Their world remains small, a place where comfort and stagnation masquerade as stability. But you are not of that world anymore. You are soaring far beyond the reach of those who once knew you, far beyond their limited scope. They will never understand the altitude at which you now rise. nor will they grasp the power you've stepped into. Their lives, still rooted in the soil of past comforts, cannot grow toward the light where you now stand. They remain entangled in the same circles, retelling the same stories, while your story is one of ascension, each chapter written at a height they will never touch. There's nothing for you in the past, no validation needed from the ones who once couldn't see your worth. Their memories of you are like faded photographs, irrelevant to the force of who you've become. You are the chosen one, meant to leave behind the weight of what was, to embrace the limitless expanse of what is to come. They can't follow you to this new realm because they were never built to rise as you have. The altitude you've reached is too thin for them. The path you walk is too steep for those who remain tethered to the ground. Your past does not define you, and those who remain in it are nothing but echoes, lost in a time you've left behind forever. You are moving forward, untouchable, unstoppable, and they will watch from a distance, never able to ascend with you. Being the one who stood apart was never a curse. It was your greatest strength. You were never meant to blend into the background, to be like the others. You were designed to disrupt, to challenge, to rise above the mediocrity that surrounds so many. That isolation, the ridicule you faced, these were the marks of your chosenness, the signs that you were destined for more than what others could see. You have always been the outlier because greatness demands it. The ones who couldn't understand you, the ones who mocked or doubted you, they were never equipped to walk the path that was carved out for you alone. Your light, your power, is undeniable now. And as you continue to rise, those left behind will fade into the shadows of their own smallness. You don't owe them your attention, your energy, or your time. Keep moving forward, keep expanding into the fullness of who you are becoming. The ones who couldn't see your worth have no place in the future you are building. Your path is steep, and the air grows thin where you are headed. They were never meant to join you on this ascent. You are the chosen one, and this is your time. Share your story. Let others see what it looks like to break free from the weight of doubt and rejection, to turn what others saw as weakness into unshakable strength. Your transformation is a testament to the power of resilience, and your voice holds the power to inspire others still trapped in the shadows. And if you're ready to take it further, consider joining us in the Obsidian Inner Order, where you'll find a community of like-minded souls who have also stepped into their power. Now is your moment.